Welcome to Bass Talk with Hagen and Hayes. Today's bite-sized podcast topic is Eduard Nanny. Hi, Susan. How are you?
I'm doing well, David. How are you?
Very well, thank you. What can you tell me about Eduard Nanny?
Well, what's interesting is, despite his being so famous and so well known, I discovered him kind of later in my bass playing life because
Right.
it wasn't Samandal's fingering system.
Mm.
And I was so strictly taught in the Samandal way that anything different was kind of forbidden in a sense. And I was too scared to step one toe out of line, so I didn't look. And then I would say I was probably in college when someone said, "Oh, but Nanny wrote the Dragonetti Concerto." And I stopped and said, "Wait, what?" And I was so confused. It was the first time I'd ever heard that concept. And so I really didn't know a lot about him because I thought he was just for jazz players. Isn't that
Right.
awful? Yeah, it was
We're
terrible.
learning more and more about you, Susan Hagen.
I know.
It's brilliant.
So tell us what you know.
Well, I first came across him when I was about 17 years old, and I'd gone to the second teacher, and he introduced me to Eduard Nanny's concerto. It's a piece he had in his collection, piece he liked, and I loved playing it. It was really, really nice. As you said, he wrote the Dragonetti Concerto. When you play lots of Nanny's music and the studies and things like that, you can see the Dragonetti Concerto all there. It's all there. You can see. Um, but what was interesting about Nanny was it's called the father of the French bass school today. But around the turn of the 20th century, him and a few friends decided to form an organization to play early music of Bach and before that, because nobody was playing it at that time. And they discovered a lot of this music. But then they started writing music in the style of the 18th century, which is why we have the Dragonetti Concerto.
Mhm.
And it's why we have Lorenzitti's Gavotte, which is also by Eduard Nanny. But they're great pieces. They're nice to play, nice to teach. Um, they're not phenomenal pieces at all, but they're really fantastic. And one of my students at the moment is learning the Ten Caprices by Nanny and absolutely loves it because it's all technique, but it doesn't feel like it's technique.
Right, doesn't feel like etudes at all. It's really
No, not at
musical.
all. It's
Yeah.
really nice, and his music has, I think, has fallen by the wayside a little bit. So I've been creating new editions of these things, and I think he died in 1942.
Mm.
So it's been a long time now, and I think a lot of his music is in print, but I'm creating these new digital editions, which is maybe better for the 21st century.
Mhm.
But it's good music. His music is not Ravel or Debussy, but it's still worth playing. It's charming, elegant music.
I think it's nice for people that you're publishing new editions of his music because they're learning more than just the Lorenzetti Gavotte, the Dragonetti Concerto, because I think definitely in Boston, I think here in America, not everybody exposes their students to his music. It was really funny because one of his little pieces is in, I think it's your, oh gosh, it might be the beginner's 50 pieces, but it could be the collection of 100. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I had one of my classes at Berkeley play it, and one of the kids said, "Nanny, isn't that someone that watches your children?" I said, "Oh gosh." No, Edward Nanny was a composer. He was a bass player. And so I got to tell them a little about who he was. And they loved the piece. It was just beautiful, accessible. And I loved it because it was like a mom giving her kids vegetables and they didn't know they were eating the vegetables. The students loved the piece. And I loved that it was really rooted in having great technique.
He was a significant figure in the history of the bass. And not only did he write a method and books of studies, he transcribed violin studies for bass and things like that. And I think in his method, I think it's a two-octave C major scale with something like 120 different poems. And you just think, yeah, that really is valuable, isn't it? Not only for learning C major, but just for learning about different poems.
Right?
Uh, Yeah. And it's all the music is still accessible. nowadays and still useful. It's not as dry or academic maybe as the Simandl, but it still is all the technique you need to be able to play all these other more advanced pieces and play in the orchestra.
And I think that can be great because when it's not too technical,
Mm,
students might enjoy it more. I always taught from the Samandal New method,
mm.
but I feel like sometimes it really does feel like, okay, these are technical exercises. But I think the Nanny pieces really feel like you're playing music. And I think that's more engaging for students. And that's great. Says the
I
mom
think
who
the
wants her
Nanny
kids to eat
method was
veggie.
probably 40 years after Simandl or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because Simandl had done such a good job,
Yeah.
standards had improved.
Right.
And then Nanny has played his part as well in where we are today.
Yes.
But I enjoy remembering these great figures from the past.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I think it's important. It shows us, where we as bass players came from. It gives us our heritage, which is
Exactly, that's
great.
right.
It's
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, I think that people can check out, Nanny's music. And I love it was the collection, the Bass Studies Book One, the collection
Yes.
of 100 pieces. He's in there quite a few times, and people I think will really enjoy it. So everybody keep an eye peeled for Nanny, and you'll be surprised about the pieces that he wrote that not initially attributed to him. Thank you for listening to our 10th Bite Size podcast from season 3 of Bass Talk with Hagen and Hayes. And I hope everybody stays tuned for more. Stay well, everybody.
Bye.